Morning, guys. Ooh, there she is. Loving life. Friday the 24th of July. Willow straight in there. So a couple of things in my mind. Something that happened yesterday. I know I've shared before that this concept of getting really stuck in habits and routines and ways of thinking. And I've made reference previously to how easy it happens, and I just think we don't always appreciate the extent to which it happens. I talked before about ways of challenging our ways of thinking, doing things differently, different direction, different routine, and so forth. And so yesterday, hello. Yesterday, we came down to the park, finished our walk, got back to the bit where I generally would park, and tend to park in the same space because there's really nobody down here when I come down. By the time I leave, there's potentially one or two cars, that's it. So I'm coming towards the car park, and I noticed that there's a car. I recognise it, and previously I know the person, he's anyway, the dog owner as such. So I think, have a moment, it's a bit unusual. There are cars parked right at the very end near what I call near the park, the barrier. Now I tend to park one but the end. And bear in mind there's no other cars there, so my head's going a bit strange that they would actually park right at the end that close. Generally they'd leave a space or so because there's just so many spaces. So I have a fleeting thought and then go, okay, there you go. This car's much taller than mine, it's like a Range Rover or something, so I can't quite see my car at this point, but I know it's there, so it's cool. And I'm getting really close to this other person's car. Come on, Will. And then my brain's going, well, I know my car's there, but it doesn't quite look like it's there, but it must be. And then I'm looking underneath the bottom of the car because I know I won't be able to see mine and can't quite see it. And I'm still going, nah, can't be right. And then I get right to the person's car itself, and well, look at the other side, or walk around it and just look at it, and I have this real sick feeling moment where I'm like, oh my life, my car's been taken, my car's gone, my car's been stolen. It's such a sinking feeling. And I'm just standing there for a couple of seconds, like going, oh my life, and I'm thinking, I didn't leave it open, did I? I couldn't have left it open. And then after literally just a few seconds, well, my head goes, oh, and I suddenly have this dawning and, reminding myself, oh, hold on a minute. When I came into the park, the barrier was locked. The gate bit was locked, so actually, and it happens every once in a while, the guy hasn't opened it by 7 o'clock. So it wasn't open. So what I had to do was go up another road and park somewhere else. But coming back to that mindset, my mindset was so stuck in that's what had happened and that's where my car would be, that I'd gone straight there. I hadn't even given a thought that may not be the case. This way, well. So, yeah, it was like, wow, the power of the mind and routine to think that I'd convinced myself my car was in the place where I'd often park and actually not given a thought that I'd parked it somewhere different. And that's what I mean by getting really, well, that's what I mean by having such a habitual way of thinking, got into a routine of, that it just hadn't entertained my head, and I'd gone straight to where I'd often, 9 times out of 10, park it without any thought at all, and to a point where, as I said, literally I can't express how strong it was that I had that a couple of seconds where I felt quite internally sick, because I actually thought my car had been taken. So yeah, it was just a reinforcement of things that something I know I've mentioned previously, though, which is the power of how we get really, our pathways in our brains very quickly get sort of caught, forged into a way of being, to a point where you're not really half the time having to think about it. It's that whole piece of staying, if you like, aware and awake, doing things that create more of a sort of consciousness. And yeah, I'm like, isn't that right, Will? Hey, Will, wakey Willow. What are you looking at, Will? I think the other thing I was sort of thinking about a little bit as well was as time's progressing, as things are shifting, moving, changing in various ways. I was having a conversation yesterday with my other 2 coaches that I've been doing some work with, Rosie and Natasha, about what our work really means. Well, what does that mean for us? What are we doing? Why are we doing it? What's the purpose? So I think we were saying, since going online, we know what we're doing to an extent, but it feels like so we're not quite. It felt like we weren't quite working collaboratively. So we're connected in some respects, but at the same time, it feels like it needs more collaboration. So we were talking about that, and what that means, what that sort of looks like, and just regaining that, or reminding ourselves actually of, well, hang on a minute, why did we get together in the first place? What was our purpose and vision for that, which is important. If you're not careful, you can get easily caught up in just carry on doing what you're doing. And in fairness, I was, the one saying I feel I need to be clear about, what actions we're taking, how that looks visually, what we're all doing as a bigger plan. And then beyond that, the others were saying about, well, especially Rosie as well, to have the momentum and motivation behind that, there needs to be a stronger sense of, well, hang on, so what we're doing, why are we doing this, why are we connected together? So it was a good conversation, actually, good reminder as well. And within that, I was also saying that, I need to see some momentum, some shifts, so I suppose value and benefit in different ways, but because I have protected the time, and I put a lot of the time, effort and energy into it, and I want to be able to feel that sort of value, that it's the worth, of continuing to do that, and the whys and the wherefores, which is what we discussed. So it reinvigorated conversations. And I think equally, as time goes on as we're looking at, the importance of and value of our time. There's other things that I need to reflect on, evaluate as to, what am I doing? Why am I doing that? What's my purpose? What's my involvement? You're going well. Will?
Hello.
Willow, come here.
lovely morning, nice and mild.
It is. Yeah, so, because what I tend to do, and it is that commitment thing, responsibility, once I'm committed to something, I'm involved in something, I tend to stick at it for quite a while. And I suppose I don't always maybe evaluate, question enough as to, well, is this working while I'm still involved? And I think there are a number of sort of things that I need to really evaluate and question that a little bit more. That's right, Will. Come on. Will, come on. Yeah, so I think there's another project that I've been involved in for a number of months now, and I recognise why I got involved in the first place, and what that meant and what that purpose was and how I felt about being involved. But I think as time's gone on and things have shifted and changed, I've noticed that my lack of connecting and actions in between that space and time of us say meeting isn't really as present, certainly, as what it was in the very beginning. And I'm having to sort of go, hang on a minute, Mandy, what are you actually, so what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? What's the point, what's the purpose? Maybe, yeah, there was a purpose for me for a period of time, but maybe that hasn't now continued in the same way. It shifted and changed, and I'm going, actually, it's not something perhaps that I'm going to continue to be involved in. And I suppose that sense of, well, it's okay to be able to do that and say that, just because I've been involved in something for a number of months. I don't feel it's continuing to bring value or worth or benefit, or that I really connect with it in a significant way. It's okay to acknowledge that and say, well, so it served a purpose for a period of time, but now it's, for me, perhaps it's run its course, and that's okay, without feeling bad, that I can share that and not continue and perhaps walk away from that. So yeah, it's important to be able to know when to I think this, just noticing, I think the camera's a little bit dirty. It's important when to know when to walk away from something, when to go, okay, I've done enough now. It's a different question for different people at different times. So guys, have the rest of a fun-filled Friday. Lots of love and see you later.